I want to start this video by saying I'm not the biggest Demon Slayer fan. It's just a show that I really enjoy, and I'm not someone who goes deep into the lore inside like the manga or whatever. Cool. I want to add real quick that there will be spoilers within this review. I'm just going to be saying what happened, so please don't watch if you have not seen the film or you just don't want to be spoiled in general. I think there's a lot of reviews out there and articles I've read that actually don't really explore what happened in Infinity Castle. A lot of them are just saying it's incredible and how much money it's made, and I kind of want to delve into my general thoughts and why I think there are actually some contentious things about it that I wasn't so sure about. So, beginning on a positive, I thought the opening was absolutely stunning. The upper Hashira, the first Hashira Giyu, was incredible at the start. His opening speech was beautiful, and I think the introduction to all the Hashiras as the film begins is really, really strong, as they're all going through like the Demon King Muzan's world. I think it's a really good way to segment each story, and the pacing of it was really strong. It felt like every single Hashira had their own moment, like spotlight, right at the beginning, and it was like, oh, he's going to go do this, he's going to go do that. And it really made me interested in where those stories would go in the future. Obviously, if you don't know of Infinity Castle, it's being split into 3 films. This was just the first one, and we only covered a few of the Hashiras within this film, but it made me really interested in where they're going to go next with the other ones that we didn't see. So going off from the intro, we obviously see Tanjiro, we see Inosuke, we see Zenitsu, Giyu, everyone. But then we stop at Shinobu, and I want to give a really good positive for this and visually. Now, Demon Slayer gets a lot of visual positives for its fights, and I do think obviously they're incredible, it goes without saying. But I think when we're inside Doma's like underground flower mansion or whatever it is, it's beautiful. It's a really, really cool way to introduce the character, and it really fits him as a character really well. This kind of creepy, pleasant attitude that goes really well with the way that he's been designed. I think it played really well into the fight as well. He didn't give up that way of attitude, that kind of I'm better than you and trying to act all pleasant and welcoming in the fight between Shinobu and him. The start of the fight felt much more like a spectacle than I would say later on into it, and I think that has to do with the flashbacks. And I know Demon Slayer gets a lot of very stereotypical hate for flashbacks, and normally I'm not too bothered by them. I think a lot of the time Demon Slayer has really good flashbacks, and they're actually really helpful for grounding characters or demons and getting to know them before either they die or they have a story arc. This felt too long. This felt unnecessary between Shinobu and Doma. And though there are some good flashbacks, like Shinobu's sister and what happened to her, it was just one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And it just took away from the fight completely, if you ask me. I still think the fight was very well put together. I really enjoyed the beats of the story throughout the fight, but it felt constantly interrupted. I don't really like aligning with that criticism of going against the flashbacks, because I think in Demon Slayer it's a really strong point of the series. But in this specific moment, it felt really frustrating and honestly quite out of place. I think the fight does, however, come to a good conclusion with obviously Shinobu's death. It was something where her arc felt like it was complete. It felt like it was coming to its end. And I think the time spent with Giyu and the time spent with Tanjiro had really, leveled up her character emotionally to the audience. And so when she does pass, emotionally it felt really strong, and it felt like the right choice if you had to get rid of a Hashira. And to do it so early in the film felt incredibly bold, but it was a decision that I honestly thought was the right one. So as much as I love Shinobu and it did upset me, I do think it was a really good decision. But moving on from there, we had Kaigaku versus Zenitsu, obviously the new Upper Moon 6. This version of Zenitsu is by far the coolest version of him I've ever seen, and the first version that doesn't seriously annoy me, if I'm honest. For the past 3 seasons, I've always been a bit of a Zenitsu hater, and I know he's very much up for controversy within the fandom of Demon Slayer. Some people love him, some people hate him. I always just found him quite annoying. I didn't feel like he added much to the story, but this version of him is the first time where it seemed like he's really an actual character and someone I really actually enjoyed watching in this film. Now, the fight between these two electric swordsmen is it's just as badass as it sounds, right? Like, it's two electric lightning swordsmen. Like, obviously that's going to look awesome. Like, it goes without saying. And visually, it was stunning as expected. I thought story-wise, it was really strong how it was put together within the fight, with Kaigaku getting the upper hand and underestimating him a lot of times. I thought it was needlessly short. And I think that has to do, once again, with the flashbacks, if I'm honest with you. I hate to go on and on and on and on about it, but I feel like if you could take out 20 minutes of flashbacks within this film in general and add it to the fight between Zenitsu and Kaigaku, and the film would instantly be so much better than it was. It just felt like it took away from the emotions of the fight, because you're using the flashbacks to give context, right? A lot of the time. That's what most flashbacks are for within anime, is to give context and to have people emotionally connect with characters or understand a plot point that wasn't previously explained. But a lot of this stuff we knew between Kaigaku and Zenitsu. In the same way, a lot of the stuff between Shinobu and Doma we knew. Obviously there was new stuff within both of them, but there was so much filler between what we learned and what we knew. It just became a bit of a waste of time, really. And it was frustrating because, once again, both of these fights were really, really good. But it just felt like they were constantly broken up by flashbacks that were really unnecessary. And I don't want that to come across like every single flashback was bad, because we'll get onto that with the final fight. But there were just some in particular where I was being given context to things that I obviously know, because I've obviously watched the show. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? It was just, yeah. Focusing on the fight, it did feel too short for me personally, but I really enjoyed what was there. I thought Zenitsu's character development throughout it was really, really strong. Having him win and beat Kaigaku felt like the right decision again. It felt like the right person won the fight, and it fit where those story arcs were going. I couldn't see Kaigaku doing more than fighting Zenitsu, so it makes complete sense that he loses this fight. And for Zenitsu, I hope he's more involved and continues down this character arc for the next two films, because what he is now is the best version of him that he's ever been, and the most enjoyable version of him to actually watch. Moving on to the final fight, and if I'm being honest with you, the one that really saved my opinion of this film, we obviously have the fight between Tanjiro, Giyu, and Akaza, Upper Moon 3. It was... In my opinion, this is the best Demon Slayer we've ever had, that final half of this film. The characters involved felt like the right characters to be there, and that was a big thing for me with this fight. If anyone's going to be there with Tanjiro, it felt like Giyu was the one who had to be there. And it also made much more sense why Tanjiro would later on be able to defeat Akaza, because if he'd defeated Akaza alone, it would have taken away from so much of what we've learned throughout Demon Slayer. Just having the main character win just because he's the main character would completely take away from the power rankings of Demon Slayer. So to have Giyu there as someone who helps him evolve throughout the fight was a really, really good way to keep the battle balanced while not making it feel like Akaza's being forced to lose. And, I mean, going on to Akaza, I mean, God, just incredible. Absolutely incredible. The voice acting in particular for Akaza, I don't know who it is, but wow, absolutely incredible. And his flashback, unlike the previous two fights, felt so perfect for what was needed in the fight. Because there was so much more going on in this fight, it felt like the flashback actually helped bring it to a right conclusion. And it wasn't always in the way. These flashbacks happened at set moments within the fight. I thought Giyu was incredible as well. Using him as almost like an anchor point to Tanjiro was really cool. And having it be that the fight goes on for so long that Tanjiro's able to evolve because Giyu is there defending him from Akaza, it's a really strong point of the fight for me. And if anything, I would actually say it's the best part of the film. Like I said earlier, it's having the correct characters in that moment. If it's another Hashira, it doesn't really make sense for him to be so defensive of Tanjiro in this fight. But Giyu was obviously the one who was there from the start. It felt so right to have him be the man who was defending him as he learnt a way to eventually decapitate Akaza. And that is also the peak of this film, obviously decapitating Akaza. And the fact that he's still alive afterwards and the flashback that ensued was genuinely peak writing. Just incredible. The flashback was amazing, and it all felt like it came together beautifully with Akaza obviously losing the battle himself, deciding to end it himself, rather than having Tanjiro be the one to beat him. Because it always felt like Akaza was stronger than Tanjiro, even in this fight when Tanjiro was reaching his peak. And it didn't feel right to have Tanjiro actually beat him, because it doesn't feel like he's on that level yet. So to have Tanjiro just fall short, have Akaza let Tanjiro win regardless, felt like such a perfect decision going into the next two films, where I hope that Tanjiro will grow to be that level in time. This is for me what made Infinity Castle worth the watch. The first half was okay. If I'm going to be honest, I was disappointed by the first half, and I would expect more within the second and third film, because it was good at points but sluggish throughout a lot of it. The second half, however, was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and what I've come to expect from such a good show, and what I will expect from the next two films. I think people are looking at Demon Slayer with rose-tinted glasses because of the recent amount of money that it's been making. It is really good, don't get me wrong, but I just think that this film is not as brilliant as people are acting like it is. It's not the best anime film of all time. It's very, very good, and the second half was incredible. But the first half, in my opinion, was quite all over the place and did struggle with pacing between backstories and fights. But I'd like to hear all of your thoughts, of course. Like I said, I'm not someone who is super in the fandom. I just watch the films and I watch the shows, and I know a little bit about the lore. So hearing other people's thoughts who are maybe more aware of what's going on would actually be really helpful. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.